Hey everyone, this is Chris, and you're watching One Cross Video, and this episode is my third take. It will be the shortest one, just because at this point I'm calling this Old Man Yells at Cloud, and if you've seen that meme from The Simpsons and that episode of The Simpsons, you understand, because this is what I feel like it's devolving to. And even when it's with people and attitudes and stuff I disagree with, I want to present them as fairly and relative and empathetically as possible, even if I disagree or disagree strongly with them. And I'm having a lot of struggle with that in this episode. I'm not going to lie. I'm under the weather. Thankfully not the Rona, but things are nuts in Ontario right now. To the point that like you can't even book a test to get get tested for COVID unless you're in like an umpteenth like specific group. Otherwise they're just like, you've got a number of the symptoms, you should isolate for 5 days, see where you're at in 5 days, basically, because it's entirely possible you have it, but our system's overwhelmed. And it's like I get the stress that adds on people. And I don't want to be unsympathetic. I don't, because as much as I've agreed with the lockdowns. I know people are going to hate on me for that, but whatever. Like, I understand. It sucks not being able to go to places where we want to go, see the people we want to see, do the things we want to do. We've had it for the majority of us have had it fairly easy for the last, my lifetime, 30 years. And we're not able to do those things. We don't like being told we can't go down a street at a certain speed. So I get it, but at the same point, we got to deal with it. we got to deal with it, because so many things are getting wonky that we're back here and people are like, well, clearly things weren't working before. And how many of the people saying that weren't actually working towards the solution? A large number. Okay, so I will keep this short because I want to be fair. I do. And I want to be fair to, even if I understand it and then another person doesn't and they're angry, I don't want it to be like, hey, I don't want to dismiss that, because that dismissing people doesn't help anything. It doesn't. Now, how I'll talk to them is going to change from person to person and how they're presenting, but I'd say just being outright dismissive doesn't help, even in joking manners. Y'all know how firm I am for universal basic income, and a while ago they were 100% joking, so I know they were 100% joking, and I know they didn't think it, but it irked me greatly, just because I'm like, don't do this, because other people actually do this and mean it intentionally. But I got more or less called a communist, and I was like, are you kidding me? Because yes, I support universal basic income, but I do support democracy, and you can support both. That's the tone I'm trying to avoid. So, okay, the main thing I'm going to talk about is the quick one of Quebec. So yesterday, the Premier of Quebec, Mr. Legault, announced that they are going to be taxing the unvaccinated. All right, so you noticed that there was a bit of a transition there. It's because I lost my article and then I was starting to get very frustrated. I'm just very under the weather. Thankfully, not the Rona, but still just not feeling good. So the main things that I've seen people reacting to since this announcement, and I definitely understand not liking it too much, because I know I wouldn't like it in Ontario, but the question isn't do I like it, is it legal? Can they do this? And seemingly, the answer is yes. So I'm looking at a global news article. I'll link it in the description, where it says legal experts say provinces have constitutional authority to levy direct taxes in order to pay for services like healthcare, which that part's scary because healthcare in Canada, since I believe the 50s has the 50s or 60s, since Tommy Douglas, a basically the guy who set up the modern day NDP, a Baptist minister, who I'm sure other people accused of being a commie. Sorry. Like Canada, we have for the most part universal healthcare in the sense of we don't pay anything when we go to the hospital. We don't mortgage our house. But dental's expensive as hell, and depending on our insurance, our medications are quite pricey. I don't want to say as hell because that's a bad expression, because it also doesn't make much sense because I can't imagine hell would be expensive. Biblically, there's no description of that. Anyways, so legal experts are saying that they can levy direct taxes in order to pay for services like that, and that it makes sense from a fairness perspective to force those who pose the most burden on the healthcare system to pay more for it. Now, if you're having a gut reaction like I don't like that, I'm kind of with you, just because while I understand it in the context of COVID, this is also one of those things where I'm like, if this starts getting applied this way, when will it start being applied to other groups? Because I don't want smokers to be taxed more than non-smokers. Heck, debatably they already are, because they're spending a lot of money on things that I'm not, to feed an addiction. And it's an incredibly difficult addiction to break. And there's so many other health issues that are like that, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So that's where I'm like, I get it. Just because you can doesn't mean I think you should. This is scary territory. So then a professor at the University of British Columbia's Peter A. Allard School of Law, Professor David Duff, said they're not taking away people's freedom, they're just requiring people to pay a price if they pose a risk. So, as much as my gut reaction is like, you can't do that, legally they can. And whether or not I like that isn't much of the point. It's, are they able to? Scarily, yes, they are. So I can't be yelling at the province if they choose to do it, because they have the right to do so. Now I'm going to link to an NPR article, which I'll also link in the description. And this one, the reason I like it is it spells things out quite clearly. So this is quoting from Premier Francois Legault. Like I said, they haven't decided on the amount. It will be significant. Legault is citing stats where 10% of adults in Quebec are unvaccinated, which is a small amount comparison to 90%. But of that 10%, they are making up 50% of intensive care patients. So as much as some people are saying like, well, look at it's spreading amongst the vaccinated as well. It is, but it's not hitting the vaccinated nearly as hard as it's hitting the partially vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And this variant, and apparently another one on the way, because Deltacron's becoming a thing, and I feel like I'm in a illness Transformers movie. Like, these are variants that are going to get past the initial things. Illnesses do this. Like, that's not surprising. It's frustrating, but it's not surprising. Legault is also looking at citing this as the majority of people in the province are asking for this. Now, he doesn't cite a study, so the article isn't citing one, but that doesn't surprise me. I've seen a number of studies, even as recently as today, that were published last year, where 70% of Canada-wide people were saying they felt employers should be severing the employment of those not vaccinated. So this is consistent with a very, very common belief. So that part I can buy. The majority are asking for consequences, and then he's adding, it's a question of fairness for the 90% of the population who have made some sacrifices. We owe them. And I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. And that's not to say that the unvaxxed haven't made sacrifices, but I think you could argue the vaccinated have made more. And then what I like about this article is it cites other countries that have done it. So I didn't know other countries were doing this. So I'm going to link the article in the description. Quebec previously announced they were going to do a curfew, but then also, let me see here. So in Greece, those over 60 have until January 16th to get their first vaccinations or be fined €100, which works out to be $113 for every month they remain unvaccinated. Australia's health minister announced last month the government plans to fine up to €3,600, which works out to be around $4,000, so a substantial difference, on people who flout coronavirus vaccine mandates it aims to introduce in February for all residents aged 14 and over. So there's a legal precedent. I don't necessarily like it, but there's a legal precedent. And I guess that's what I wanted to share and I guess encourage. Like, guys, we got to be able to look at stuff beyond, like, do I not like it? Instead of just knee-jerk reacting and adding to the fervor and the clicks and the misnews and all that, the fake news, the misrepresentation, the outright lies, we gotta actually pause and dig, because when we pause and dig, as much as we might not like the result, the stuff is communicated and we can learn that, yeah, they can. And they're not violating any laws by doing it, and they're, in this dude's case, he's citing the majority of the wants, and heck, Spock, my fellow Trekkies, constantly said the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And that's something we got to consider. So what I'm going to ask is, during all this, of course, is to pray. Please keep praying. Pray for wisdom for our leaders. Pray for wisdom for those in power. Pray for wisdoms for everybody who's fed up. Just pray. And let's treat each other with empathy. I hope you heard this episode. I hope it made sense, even if it's stuff you don't like. I love you guys. I missed you guys. I'm looking forward to doing more. I'm hoping to finding a happy medium of not always super schnerious OCR shorts, and also happy ones as well. All right, all that being said, I am going to finally add in that Space Hotel is still a thing. Look it up. I think it's dumb. Mostly because the world's in shambles. We don't need a hotel in space right now. I'm not trying to be a killjoy. Let's get free healthcare or affordable healthcare to the majority of the world first, before we spend hundreds of billions of dollars on a hotel in space that like 45 people are going to be able to benefit from. All right. Sorry for all that downer energy. It's just where I'm at, but I hope I communicated it in a loving and accessible way. All that being said, love y'all. Hope you have a great day, and God bless, my friends. Look forward to being back soon, hopefully with some happier stuff. Peace.